this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring like a lion.
God's not dead.
And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your
사람들에게는 만사의 형통할 수 있는
And the kingdom of God and his citizens are kings and queens that stand with the king of kings and his kingship, that rule with a rod of iron in peace, justice, and mercy. Citizens are ours.
Now, the Rod of Iron Ministries, which is another offshoot of this church.
This is a satanic antichrist devil. These are not real Christians.
This is a cult.
We're very much opposed to it.
Disgusting.
We don't worship government, we worship God.
How many of you feel safer knowing that your teacher has a gun? All of you.
We need to turn back to God.
Not to be dependent on the government.
Revelation 3:11, let no man take thy crown, hold fast to what God has. Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report. It is Monday, June 11th, 2018, 9th year of Chungi, 4th month, 28th day. By the heavenly calendar, I'm your host, Sean Moon, the second king of Chuniagut. Let's go first to our AccuWeather forecast with Tim, the Agent Elder. Tim.
Good morning. It's 56 degrees and cloudy at the Chuniagut this morning, and we're going up to about 75 today. And it's going to be pretty much this kind of weather throughout the week. We'll be gradually warming into the upper 70s for highs in the daytime, and then this coming weekend in the perhaps low 80s. But the forecast for a week from today, or next Sunday actually, the 17th, when we're going to have the ancestor liberation, was originally at 90 degrees, but that has come down now to 86. So things are coming down a bit, and it's apparently raining in the southern part of Pennsylvania, but that's not going to affect us. We expect.
So today is partly cloudy.
Yes.
With a high of 75.
Yes.
Partly cloudy.
Yes.
All righty. Well, at least we'll be able to see some sunlight today. And what does it say for Tuesday and Wednesday?
For Tuesday and Wednesday, 77 and 77 will be the highs.
Also partly cloudy.
Tuesday, sun much of the time, nice. And Wednesday, a thunderstorm in spots. So there'll be some clouds, but it will be pretty nice. Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. So Wednesday may be a little rainy.
Thunderstorm in spots, so there's a possibility of rain, yes.
Okay. Because we're going to do a lot of video filming. I guess that's the documentary crews will come and be filming us then. And I was just showing Tim and the tech team here. Just check it out. When I got the pistol AR here, and if I just clip this here and I clip this out here, and look how much smaller the pistol looks without the Meprolite sight. If I just do the iron sights. See how tiny that looks now? Used to be here like this, boom. See how big that looks? Maybe let me pick it up so people can see here pretty close, clearly. Can you all see that? You see that? Okay, so here, we got it like that. See how small that looks now? Now, the Meprolite sight, which is quite an awesome sight, by the way, that looks quite more hefty, doesn't it? Looks quite more substantial. Like, dude, there's that, boom. Look how tiny that looks like. And it feels a lot lighter. You know, it feels a lot lighter. So I may have to get a lighter red dot for this, but nobody beats this, nothing beats this red dot because it absorbs the light and you don't need any batteries in it. And there's that red light is always shining and strong. And so it's just such an awesome system. Israeli system. But, I mean, the gun, it looks so much smaller. Look how tiny that looks. I mean, that's a pistol, you know what I mean? Boom. I mean, it looks tiny, you know what I'm saying? So it is a tiny little gun when it comes down to it, you know, with the light on and everything. But, yeah, it feels a lot lighter, too. It feels a lot lighter. So I do actually like that. you know, let's put it back on the samurai sword stand here, because this is the modern samurai sword. Okay, but you can see the difference. Just see the difference there. Is that? Boom. See that? So it really does make a difference in terms of size-wise. It's super easy. This rail system, the continue rail system, is just so easy to set up. And now it's good to go. But it does add a couple. You know, it adds maybe 2-3 inches on a long gun. It's pretty good. But since it's such a tiny gun, it may be a little too big for that. I'm not sure. But anyways, it is what it is. I mean, when you actually use it, it works so well. So that's why I'm reluctant to remove it, because it's so good on top of there. It's so good. So I will have to, you know, play around with it as we train. But what an awesome, awesome little gun. This is about the minimum you can go with a barrel on an AR-15 because the velocity's pretty high. And if you want to go shorter, I mean, I was talking with Kukjung, if I want to go to like a 7-inch gun here, this is a 11-inch barrel. If I want to go to 7-inch and like basically have this size, that's how small it will be, you have to go to 300 blackout, because you'll have so much variance with the 223 round, and you'll have so much ballistic, not malfunction, but you'll have a lot of difference in ballistic performance. And I did look it up. I actually did look up people on YouTube who have a 7-inch barrel on AR-15, 223 round, and they can't hit the target consistently at 50 rounds, 50 yards. They can't. It does not go properly. So the guy, and they're very good shots, but putting it right on target, and they're missing. So I was shocked. I was like, wow, it really does make a huge difference. So the AR round needs about 11 inches minimum to get out properly and just get that nice spin on it. So it gets that nice ballistic performance and that nice rotation. So polygonal, you know, spiraling and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it is an interesting scientific fact. But this is about as short package you can get with an AR pistol. You know, and 300 blackout is not as powerful as a 223. You know what I mean? I mean, this gun, you can reach out and touch somebody 200 yards easy. I mean, I will touch that 200-yard target, just reach out and touch it. Boom, boom, boom. You'll be touching that 200 target easy with this Meprolite. You know what I mean? And so is this a really big price to pay? I mean, it's pretty small. I mean, if you think about it in the context of the whole thing. But if I can reach out and touch the 200-yard targets with just the sights, I don't know. I may just go with iron sights. There's a lot of old school guys that don't even use the red dots. They just go iron sights because that's what they fought with in Vietnam and Korea, whatever. And they just say, you know, iron sights never break. So you want to get good with iron sights. And there's some logic to that. But I haven't tried it. If I can reach out and touch 200 yards with that, just the iron sights, I may move this Meprolite to a different gun. You know, but in any case, it's such a so beautifully done. Praise God. And if you can look at the serial number here. This is number 1. This is the first AR pistol that Thompson Machine Gun and Auto Owners ever produced. This is the first AR pistol in the history. So what a historical gun, and it works like flawless. I put hundreds and hundreds of rounds of this, and I haven't even cleaned it once, unfortunately. But it performs so well. If I get a folding stock here, there is the recoil spring in here. So if you get the folding stock, which basically modifies that recoil spring, you can actually fold it down, and it folds down to a smaller package, so it can literally go into a bag. With the current stock on there, the pistol grip, it's not a real stock. It's not supposed to legally a stock. It's a pistol stabilizer, face cheek stabilizer. But if that thing can fold, which you can actually get a mount right here, which allows it to fold, modifies that recoil spring, then this thing would literally fold in half, or at least this part, boom, and it would become 6 inches shorter. So it can be stuffed into a small little bag. And I could actually carry it around. That would be so fly. So dope. Okay. Anyways, let me show y'all this wonderful video. Of course, one of our favorite songs. And yesterday, as we were talking about kingship and sovereignty and the blood and the sovereignty that is in the blood that gives us sovereignty when we connect to God's blood lineage. Beautiful song that I love. No Longer Slaves. And this is done so well. Let's take a look at this. Volume. Volume.
Speaker.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? This system is ridiculous. Drives me nuts.
You unravel me
Is that it?
with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies till all my fears have gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again to a family. Your blood flows through my veins.
Blood and sovereignty.
I'm no longer
Ownership.
a slave to fear.
Slaves are owned. The king,
I am
no one
a
can own
child of God.
other than God.
I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am surrounded by the arms of a Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage. We're the sons and the daughters. Let us sing our freedom.
What's in there? Do we have volume? It's shut off? Oh, that's a downer. Some kind of YouTube glitch? What's up with that? Some kind of YouTube glitch. Did we get Did we get paused? Did we get shut down?
No.
Okay, so we're still live? Oh man, that was oh, that's such a downer. Oh man, because that's such a wonderful song. But sometimes, folks, we got to be careful with what we play here because sometimes our whole broadcast gets shut down if these are what is it? Copyrighted. Now, where do I find if it's copyrighted, Tech Team? Tell me where does it say copyrighted if it is? Does it say it in the show more?
No.
Where would it say copyrighted?
There's a place where you can go in the Creator Studio where they.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Where you can search for a particular video and it'll show what the conditions are. Sometimes it may be copyrighted, but the copyright owner will allow us to show it in exchange for being able to show ads on our videos. So there are different deals.
All right. So again, they stopped. I'm sorry about that, folks. I apologize. We don't know. Some of these videos are copyrighted, so we have to just move with the internet because of the copyright formats. And looks like that just shut off right there. But let's go to our Rima today. We are in the life in the diaspora, a very interesting study. We are in Nehemiah chapter 1 today. And then I want to read this little life in the diaspora section that is here. It says, the diaspora is a name for the Jewish community located outside the land of Israel. The Jews had been removed by force from the northern kingdom of Israel by the Assyrians. The northern kingdom's always getting taken over. It's always getting prostituted out into the Baal worship. The northern kingdom is always screwing up. Isn't that interesting? The northern kingdom is always making trouble or being taken over.
That's the 10 tribes.
Yeah, exactly. The Jews, that's the faithless 10. The Jews from the southern kingdom of Judah were taken as captives by the Babylonians after 586 BC. As a result of these initial political realities, Jews began to spread around much of the ancient world. The Jews living in Babylon did fairly well in their exile communities, even in the Babylonian period. They settled in their own communities, built their own houses, and engaged in agriculture and trade. Many of the Jews in Babylon came from highly educated and well-to-do families. The Babylonians allowed the Jews to retain their customs and laws. They were also the prominent players in the rebuilding and resettling of Jerusalem when Jews were permitted by the Persian king Cyrus to return to their homeland and rebuild the temple. In the Persian period following the collapse of Babylon, there is evidence that the Jewish community thrived in both Mesopotamia and Egypt. The Jews from the northern kingdom who were captured by the Assyrians did not fare as well. Those who were captured and displaced likely assimilated into Assyrian culture. Those left behind intermarried with Assyrians and became known as Samaritans. That's what Jesus is talking about, Samaritans there. During the conquest of the Assyrians and Babylonians, some Jews fled to Egypt, including Jeremiah's community. Some made their way up into upper southern Egypt, Jeremiah 4:1. It's likely many of the Jews in Egypt worked as mercenaries for Egyptian authorities, which is why they were allowed to stay. A collection of documents called the Elephantine Papyri, written in Aramaic in the late 5th century BC, was discovered on a small island in southern Egypt. These texts shed light on Jewish life outside the land of Israel. The Elephantine Papyri bear witness to a small Jewish military colony present on the island that dates back to at least 5th century BC and perhaps earlier. The documents make reference to a temple to Yahoo that was destroyed by hostile neighbors. More than likely, this was a small functioning temple to Yahweh for the Jews living in Egypt. According to the Elephantine Papyri, the Jews of Egypt appealed to the governors of Jerusalem and Samaria to influence the Egyptian authorities to allow them to rebuild the temple. Arsames, governor of Egypt 410 to 48 BC, eventually granted the request. These texts reveal the centrality of Jerusalem in terms of influence over the diaspora community. At the same time, the Jerusalem community seems to have permitted another temple to Yahweh, though outside the land of Israel. It's interesting that the temple to Yahoo does not appear to have been monotheistic. Then what kind of stupid temple is it then? That ain't no temple to Yahweh then if it's not monotheistic, you bozo bums. Look at the freaking Ten Commandments. There is evidence in the Elephantine papyri that other divine names or deities were also worshipped in the temple. Oh my gosh. Though there was an altar for sacrifice to Yahweh, it's likely this was more of a syncretistic community than the one in Jerusalem, and the community was probably not in the mainstream of Jewish practice and thought. All right, so there's a little background to chapter 1 of Nehemiah, which is entitled Nehemiah's Prayer. The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, while I was in the citadel of Susa, Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other men, and I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that had survived the exile, and also about Jerusalem. Remember, the Assyrians are here. They said to me, those who survived the exile are back in the province, are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Then I said, Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly towards you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses. Remember the instruction you gave your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands, then even if your exiled people are at the farthest horizon, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. They are your servants and your people, whom you redeem by your great strength and your mighty hand. Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of this your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight in revering your name. Give your servant success today by granting him favor in the presence of this man. I was kept cupbearer to the king. And here, the word study here is cupbearer, or mashka. The Hebrew literally means one who gives someone something to drink. The Hebrew for this word occurs 11 other times in the Old Testament in the sense of cupbearer. According to the Greek historian Xenophon, one of the cupbearer's duties was to choose and taste the king's wine to make certain that it was not poisoned. Thus, Nehemiah had to be a man who enjoyed the unreserved confidence of the king. The need for trustworthy court attendance is underscored by the intrigues that characterize the Achaemenid court of Persia. Xerxes, the father of Artaxerxes the first, was killed in his own bedchamber by a courtier. And there you go, folks. That's a fascinating study, isn't that, into Nehemiah and the Assyrian kings. Remember, the Assyrians are the ones who were the brutal murderers, assassins. And during warfare, they would skin their captives alive. They would torture them. They would completely torture them, skin them alive, and they would hang their skin along with their faces and skulls to bring fear into their enemies. And so nations would literally hear the Assyrians are coming, and they would literally give up because they were so frightened. They would surrender because of the frightening aspect, in which they showed absolutely no regard for human life. And of course, the Assyrians are the forefather ancestors of ISIS, being from Iraq, the current day Iraq area. And so you see, for example, ISIS are the descendants of the Assyrians. They are the physical descendants of the actual Assyrians. Isn't that fascinating? Nehemiah here giving a very heartfelt prayer. But I'm thinking about it from God's perspective. It's like, you bozos. I mean, you guys are praying now after the stupid Assyrians come and skin you alive and rape all your women and ejaculate into them. So now they're having babies with, Assyrian babies, you know what I'm saying? Take you as sex slaves and raping all your children and killing all your men. I mean, this is what happens, okay? This is what happens when you get conquered. So it's a serious thing. Man, it's shocking. Stefan Molyneux was actually sort of analyzing from a sociological perspective this whole idea of conquest and taking over a population of women, killing off the men, raping the women, and then having babies with them. Actually, what he was saying is, sociologically, the women actually get a... No, he didn't. This is not his words. Okay, so they don't get a good deal or something like that, but they actually get an elevation in terms of their access to resources. So the nation that's coming in is obviously stronger than the nation that's getting conquered, right? So the women, even though their husbands are killed and they are changed with another incoming conquering, culture and new men that take over and become their husbands. A lot of these women, if they're not in the Christian or Judeo-Christian honorable framework, they will actually succumb to the new force that's coming in. And within a year or two, their memories of their previous husband will fade, blah, 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 and they'll just adjust. Because sociologically, in terms of their instinct, women crave resources. Sociologically, men crave a genetically healthy female, right? A genetically beautiful female, which are characteristics of a healthy female. So men, let's just put it simply, men crave beautiful women, women crave resources, okay? Because instinctually, that's how microevolutionary they've been developed, because the woman needs to be somewhat dependent on a provider, especially when she's pregnant or if she's injured or if she's maimed or handicapped, etc. So they instinctually are providing resources, craving resources. Okay, and the point is, Stefan Molyneux was saying that literally when a new conquering force comes in, a lot of women will just, they'll cry for a couple months, but they will adjust to this new level of resources now that they're able to get. And the conquering nation that comes in is stronger than the conquered nation. So even, for example, you see a lot of Muhammad's wives were wives that he conquered. The nations killed the men, literally slit their throats, let their bleed out and die, and then took their wives. And then the wives happily, literally, became his wives and had sex with him. They're saying, well, it's just another penis, and it's the same, and I get more resources. So a lot of these low quality women, what Stefan Molyneux was saying, was basically they actually get a benefit in a conquering culture. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's such a weird, we never heard that perspective, did we? Right? Think about it.
I don't think so.
It's a very rare type of analysis. But he's just analyzing him just a sort of like a cold, unemotional, scientific, sociological perspective, right? These women get men with more resources that come in, and then their instinctual desire for resources is fulfilled in a greater way with the new men that are coming in and new men that are becoming their husbands. But of course, they're being raped and all that kind of stuff. They actually adjust to that sociologically.
I'm not sure that conquered women would agree with this.
No, I know. That's why he's not talking about whether or not they feel that way.
Yeah.
But he's talking about in terms of sociological benefit. Okay, but of course, it's interesting when even if you look at communist countries, right, when women are given the decision to whether to be read or dead, many of them will choose to be read.
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, many beta males will choose the same way. But honorable men will choose no. They're basically, the honorable men in the society as a population are the biggest population of people that will choose death, will choose to die over giving up their honor, right? So that's the alpha male category. There's probably a smaller group of alpha females that will choose that. Christian women will choose that. See, that's why Christian women basically become alpha females. Spiritually, they become alpha females because they will choose to die than to dishonor Christ. And the Bible actually warns them that in the last days they will be tested that way, and that they will actually have to choose between whether or not they will die or disown Christ. Okay, so Christian women become alpha females, even spiritually, because they're willing to die rather than give up Christ. And so you can see the power now. But if you think like a pagan culture, there's nothing that prevents or trains women and beta male men to be honorable, right? It's all about obeisance. It's all about prosperity gospel to your deity that you're worshiping, whatever it is. It's all about this fake kind of faith. There's no real power in their faith. So in that context, then you'll have a small population of the men, which we call beta males, that will sell out for power. And of course, a larger population of women that will sell out for power. They will choose to be read than dead. They would actually choose to go along with immorality and licentiousness and justify it rather than die fighting it. Okay, now for you honorable Christian women out there, obviously this is going to sound pretty crazy because you're honorable and you're willing to die for Christ. Okay, so you're a different species. Let's just look at the normal girls that are out there. Look at these normal, brainwashed, unchristian girls that even in America, right? There's so many. America's become an unchristian country. I mean, look at these people. They will choose anything if they're given the fear of death. Literally, they will choose they'll convert to Islam. They'll do whatever you say if they have the fear of death over them. I mean, that's how literally dishonorable they are. It's like, well, I gotta be alive. It's, there's no sense of transcendent morality, transcendent honor code, right? So the point is, anyways, we got into that. We're digressing, but we got into that whole discussion because of Stefan Molyneux's sociological analysis on these type of pagan women and beta males. But think about it in the context of the kingdom of God. In the context of the kingdom of God, all the males and females of the kingdom, as they're growing up, are brought into this Christian warrior culture, right? So because they're brought into this Christian warrior culture, they don't become dishonorable sluts and prostitutes. They become people who love God, love their neighbor. They're willing, at a young age, they're trained to be able to accept the psychological burden and reality and responsibility of even at some point in their life having to lay down their life for their friends and or neighbors, right? So you're training the person to be honorable from a young age. So then that person then has a much higher probability of becoming an honorable person that will value principles and honor over prosperity and resources. You see what I'm saying? And that fundamentally transforms the nature of society because the individuals in the societies which make the decisions in the free interactive society then become based on honor and probability-wise, right? The more peoples will behave honorably and will value the virtue of honor rather than just simply resources, right? So the entire nation's character, the culture, will transform per generation. And that's why the PPP militia in the kingdom of God is such the citizen armament, the citizens organized and armed and trained together is such a critical facet of the kingdom of God and the rule of the rod of iron, right? So this is such an incredibly important point to understand because we can see it even in this Rima. We see how the Jews had become so secularized and become so immoral and unvirtuous and how they literally slutted themselves over to their conquerors out of fear. I mean, this is the case. This is the case. This is, unfortunately, this is the reality of human history, right? And when, it's one thing to just say it. It's another thing when the shish hits the fan to be able to do it, right? When the Han mother betrayed father and everybody, and they were trying to bribe us and pressure us, and the whole entire church pressure us with with the threat of disowning us, the threat of ostracizing us, the threat of making us pariahs, even though I'm the successor appointed heir by true father himself. We had to decide in that moment, like as you guys hear the story of it, it's already a foregone conclusion. It's already done. But think about myself and Kukjong when we're in the midst of that. You know what I mean? And all that pressure and all that potential ostracism and all that potential hatred that falls upon us from the very people that say they love us. And that we would be cast out as pariahs. Think how much pressure there was. And so, for example, and the Queen knows this too, even our wives were begging us, basically saying, please, let's just stay, because they were scared. It's not like they were dishonorable or anything. They were just in the moment. They could not deal with that stress. And so even the Queen was, and she admits it, she repents about that. She repented to God and God forgave her. But she was weak in that moment, right? And it was the men of the household, myself and Kukjinong, that said, no. For us, it's a very easy thing because I'm martial artist and I grew up in the martial art culture and the martial art warrior culture. Just it's like, hey, if you have a master, you do not betray him. And it's like part and parcel of the samurai code. It's like part and parcel of the honor code in the martial arts tradition. So for me, it was pretty simple. I mean, for me, it was like, I'm not doing this. But I could see for the girls around me and all the people around me, it was so different. They were not acting that way because they had not been trained, you see. They had not been trained to value that type of honor and virtue over resources, right? And so even the Queen, she was filled with fear, and the future was totally and the fear of ostracism for women is very powerful. And they, of course, use that pressure on one another to make them go along with group identity, groupthink. But because I was strong and I said, no, we will not go along with it. And I will not call Heavenly Father, Heavenly Parents and become a ditheist heretic. And of course, that's why the husband is in the subject position. Of course, that's why she knows and she trusts me because, and that's why she says I'm her teacher and I'm her leader, because when the shish hit the fan, I made the right decision as the head of the house, as the high priest, as the representative of the high priest of Melchizedek in my family, and of course, the heir and successor of the Lord of Second Advent. So I had to make the right decision. I'm not bragging or anything. I just had to do it. And for me, it was like, hey, this is normal because the way I've been trained as a martial artist and in these real combat arts is you got to have loyalty with one another because these are like literally gangs, You got to be loyal to one another. You can't just betray one another. Otherwise, that whole warrior community will come against you. You know what I mean? So that's what's so important about peace, police, peace, militia culture that people don't understand. And that's why it's so important for everybody in the kingdom to participate in the level that they can participate. If you can participate in training the jiu-jitsu and the kali eskrima and the knife fighting and the firearms, that's the best. Obviously, that's the best. But some people have some physical handicaps. Some people are older and their bodies are more frail and they can't get into all that stuff and they can't get injured or some of that. So then participate in the firearms aspect of it, that you won't get injured there as long as you're training. Practice your marksmanship, practice just knife and kali eskrima concepts where you don't have to use a lot of physicality to wrestle people and stuff like that. Whereas if you do the MMA and the jiu-jitsu, you're going to have to use a lot of physicality. There's going to be a lot of physical requirements, okay? So But of course, don't not train MMA and jiu-jitsu just like the king is training everybody else here to do because you're scared. You have to be honest with yourself. There's people that don't train because they're just chicken. Okay? And if that's you, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to repent before God, and you have to be honest, grow some balls, grow some bravery, grow some bravery and train. Okay? So if you're younger and you're healthy, you pretty much don't have an excuse, and everybody knows it. But if you're older and stuff like that, obviously we understand, right? Young people should definitely be training the combat arts and getting their epigenetics, unless getting beat up, because it's fundamentally good for it's good for you as a young person. It teaches you maturity. It teaches you humility. It teaches you real strength and pushing through loss and pushing towards victory. It teaches you incredible principles, and it builds your mind to be extremely strong in the face of adversity. So because I was trained that way, look at what happened. Look at what happened with the king. When I was faced with that kind of decision I had to make, I chose correctly. Do you see what I'm saying? And that training had a serious impact, because literally, in terms of my life, I'd say maybe half to 80% of it is training martial arts. So it's a really big aspect of my life. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge aspect. And in that aspect, it's like such a critical virtue inside those arts is honor and loyalty. You got to be loyal to your people who are training with you. You got to be loyal to your gang. You got to be loyal to your dojo. Many times in the dojos, people get tattoos of their dojo. Like if you're training with the Gracies, you're Gracie Baja, or you're Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, you get a tattoo of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Baja. You get a tattoo of your dojo to show your allegiance of your dojo. It's literally like a gang, because you're dealing with real fighters here. You're dealing with real fighting, so it's literally like a gang. But a good gang, okay? A gang that's trying to empower other people, okay? So literally, people get tattoos in honor of their gang, and you'll see this too in the Japanese samurai warrior tradition too. You will wear on your kimono, whatever, on your, what's that, their top cloth. The men put it over there. Anyways, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called is it called a kimono on the top?
Haori?
Haori, that's right. It's called a haori. That's right. It's a haori. And they will have the crest of their samurai house on there. So many times it's a little cherry blossom here, you'll see here, and one on the back, or you'll see a little face mask, whatever it is. It's a crest of their family household. But basically that family household is warriors, right? So it's like a crest of their warrior clan. But really it's a gang, you know what I mean? So, this thing of identifying yourself as being part of this sort of gang or this group or this clan is a sign of loyalty. And so that virtue of loyalty is really pushed in the martial arts. It's very important to have loyalty and honor and virtue in there. Of course, many of the samurais were evil, they were mercenaries, but I'm digressing. In the modern day, these dojos are good, right? They're good people. They're training normal people to become self-defenders. So I'm not deluded thinking I'm in some kind of samurai clan or something like that in these fighting arts. But growing up in these fighting arts, in these real fighting arts, you really build a sense of the principles they teach you. It's like, man, you can't betray people. You know what I mean? You betray people, there's going to be consequences, because the people you're betraying can hurt you bad. You know what I'm saying? You see what I mean? And so there's real consequences to betrayal. So you have a real fear factor, which is good. And that's why peace, police, and militia is so important. And that's why everybody in the kingdom is armed with the rule of the rod of iron, because that fear factor is good. It helps curb the unlimited passions and desires of human beings. And if those go unfettered or unchained or unabashed, it wreaks havoc on humanity and actually creates socialism, communism, political Satanism. Because that unbridled desire for the unlimited desire for resources then become hell on earth, okay? So you have to understand, not only philosophically, but sociologically, The peace police and peace militia trains people. I'm looking at what Nehemiah is praying about. He's dealing with the whole population of Jews that became dishonorable, that became unvirtuous, that became unprincipled, and they sold themselves out to the Assyrians. They sold themselves out to the Babylonians. They sold themselves out. Okay, and they didn't die fighting. They were not like the Spartans that with 300 went against 10,000 men. At some points in history of the Jews, they did that too. But the point is, when they become secularized, look at what happened with the Assyrians. The Jews basically became the Samaritans because they just assimilated with the Assyrians, right? They didn't keep their tradition of worshiping God. And even in this Elephantine papyri that we read about, we see that this Jewish community was practicing syncretism and mixing the God of the Jews, which is the one and true Almighty God, with other fake gods which are evil. Okay? So this is dangerous too. But again, when we're young, we can fall into these things unless we are trained. And we understand the serious consequences that arise from these images, from these deities, from these philosophies, that these actually create different civilizations and different moral values and different set of ethics, which then create a different culture and a civilization. You understand? So above all these cultures, there has to be a meta architecture of ethics, which is, of course, the Chinese Constitution, which creates, even though it allows freedom of religion, all religions, all peoples are under the Constitution if you're in the Chinese kingdom, right? All of you are subjected to the law of the Chinese Constitution, regardless of your religion or race or creed or whatever. So all of you are subjected to the laws of Chinese Gu. Okay, and to the overarching constitution. So that's the thing that allows people to go beyond their differences of religion, race, and creed and to come together as citizens of the kingdom of God. All right. And so in its own way, it will actually modify Islam. It will actually modify Buddhism. It will actually modify fake Christianity into a culture which actually, like in the West, for example, you'll see how Western Muslims are modified Muslims, essentially. They grow up with Christian values. They're not growing up with Sharia values. I mean, the majority, the ones who grow up speaking English and stuff like that. What we call the moderate Muslims, we should probably call them modified Muslims. Okay? Because they actually adopt Christian values, and Buddhism is the same way. In the West, social Buddhism arises out of a modification of Buddhism, because Buddhism usually flees society and goes to monastic, whereas social Buddhism in the West is a product of Protestant social activism, which then gets combined with Buddhism, which then becomes a socialized Buddhism, a socially active Buddhism that we only find in the West historically, okay? And there's actually a section on that in the World Religions textbook that we use at Harvard. Social Buddhism and its combination with Protestant evangelical activism, okay? Anyways, I'm digressing. The point is that the Chunigok overarching Christian framework and connected to the honor of the Lord of the Second Adam, the three kingships, and the history, the story of the second king, the first king, of course, a true father and the King of Kings, and his life course, but then also after that, the struggle that Cain and Abel had to go through in being honorable, in not throwing him away. That story, that legend, which is of course a real story, but will become like a legend, will throughout time be the stories that people in China will grow up with. So even though they're Muslim or Buddhist, they will still know about it, just as they know about George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. They will still know about the honor code that's been passed down. And the peace, police, militia that they are training in will also be a remnant of that, will also be in the tradition of the, three kingship line. You understand? And the motto of love God, love your neighbor will be pervasive as the dominant narrative structure for the training of young people into these honor code arts. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's why it's so important, because otherwise, what happens? A true father did not give us the peace, police, militia. Okay? We would still, at some point, be taken over by communism and socialism. because there's no inhibiting factors. There's no education program that also incorporates a huge level of consequence, right? If you have a population of warriors and you betray those warriors, you have an existential crisis on your hand. You can die. You understand? And whether you're a girl or boy, right? This was Stefan Molyneux's analysis of the vote. When women got the ability to vote, but they were not threatened by the draft, they could act sentimentally and vote for stupid politicians emotionally because they would not have to die walking into machine gun fire. They would send men to die for their stupid decisions. So this creates irresponsibility. But in Chunuguk, women, because they're also in peace militia, they also have the threat of death if they act irresponsibly and betray the loyalty of their clan. They also have the fear of death. Not only the men have the fear of death, women also have the threat of death over them as well, or ostracism or deep punishment. Because they too are brought up in the warrior code. They are not exempt from that like the U.S. made women in America, freeing them from the draft, which of course makes... And it's not because women are inherently evil or something. If you free men from the draft, they're going to act irresponsibly too. And of course, that's what we see. We see that they get taken over by socialism very quickly after the draft is basically taken away. So human beings respond to incentives and also disincentives. In a warrior culture, you have a disincentive to act irresponsibly, unvirtuously, because you have a whole group of very dangerous people that you've trained with and that you have to be loyal to, who will keep you accountable, right? They will call you out. They're not afraid of you because they're all fighters too. They're not afraid of confronting you either, right? I mean, the Queen sometimes she's shocked about how I can confront people if I have to call them out on their bullshit. I will confront them and I will say it right to their face. And the Queen is like shocked when she sees me do it. She's literally, her heart is pounding and she's like, oh my gosh. She'll just like, you know, she's seen that many times, right? But I can do that because I have no problem confronting something. I don't get off on it or something. I don't necessarily enjoy it. But if I have to do it, I'll do it, right? Because in fighting training, you're confronting people all the damn time. You're fighting people. So you're not scared. I mean, what's the worst that this dude can do? You try to punch you? Well, you train with that all the time. You get punched all the time, right? So having to confront people and stuff like that, it's a natural part of being a warrior. So if you know these are people that will confront you and call you on your bullshit. If you act in dishonorable ways, they will come out of love. They will come and confront you. They're not just little biatches. You know what I mean? So that fear factor, that element of mutually assured and mutually supported, mutually buttressed and supported virtue in the society provides a ethically different society. And of course, because the peace militia comes from the Constitution, comes from the decentralization of force from law enforcement and the military, etc., comes from that principle from the Constitution. And of course, the Constitution comes from God. We know that these things come from the Lord's second advent, come from God's culture, right? So it really is a mollifying factor. It really is a factor that helps assuage and subdue and temper and the unlimited desires of men and women, which then, if they go unbridled, become politically socialism, communism, and political Satanism and hell on earth, right? So, again, the importance of the aspect of peace, police, peace, militia, and that's why we train and hard, and we remain humble, and we value our training. And that's why it becomes part of our life. Training is our life, right? Not only for preparedness perspectives, but also for spiritual perspectives of remaining a loyal and virtuous person. That's why peaceably militia training, if you train, you know there's a great spiritual dimension. And that's why you will see young people who go through these hardships become spiritually different people. They become different species of people. They become a totally different character of person, right? They learn things which they will never learn in public school, government-run schools. They learn things that they will never be taught, even in normal Christian churches, right? Because you also learn with your body, and you also learn by getting dominated and actually getting the physical consequences yourself. And so you have the larger context of, if I act immorally and unrepentantly, I will have this community of warriors that will be against me. And so you actually get the threat of being not only confronted, but the threat of being challenged as well. So that threat of that reality is really important. Okay, very, very important. So I understand, there's a lot of factors involved in training, and I know it's scary, I understand that. But you have to be honest with yourself and real with yourself. Those who are not training, it is because you're scared. So you got to man up, woman up, step into that. I know it's scary to walk into a fight dojo, even though it's become much more, welcoming and inviting in the modern age. They're really running it more professionally, and it doesn't feel like a fight dojo. When we were training, when just the Gracies were in the garage, man, it was a freaking fight dojo. You understand? People are there purely to learn how to fight. It's not like totally business out now. Now it's business out. It looks like you're walking to a hotel room, some of these dojos, and it just looks like so inviting. There's coffee tables, coffee shops. It's just meant to make. And I understand that it's now become a lot watered down, and of course the training level really gets watered down and stuff like that. But man, when we were training 20 years ago, when Gracie Rodriguez was just touching the market with the UFCs, just beginning and challenging all the martial arts, are you kidding me? It was a freaking fight dojo. Everybody in there is a fighter. Everybody in there is a freaking beast. There's no biatches in there. You understand? It was a scary place. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you get your booty whooped. If you have a little bit of arrogance, you get your arms broken. I mean, the guys in there will teach you a lesson, and you have to come back with a humbled head and a repentful posture and come back training, and then they'll accept you back in. You understand? I mean, that's how a lot of us got our arm limbs broken and snapped and hyperextended. You understand? We went through that hazing process. Okay? But that's how it was. That's how it was in the early days in Brazil and in the U.S. I mean, that's how it was. It's now become a lot more, businessed out. There's a lot more people training now, so there's a lot more potential lawsuits and all this kind of crap. So, but in the beginning, hell no, there was none of that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Give me a break. There was none of that, okay? Insurance, give me a freaking break. So, I mean, but anyway, the point is, in the Peace Police Be Militia, we learn those things physically, and as you know, young people learn physically. You can't just stimulate their mind mentally; they learn physically as well. Okay. And the kids who are scared, the kids who lean more towards intellectual stuff, and they're scared of physical conflict. They're scared of physical confrontation. They'll argue with you as long as they know that you won't hit them. But as soon as they know there's a threat of fear of getting beat up, they literally will break down. They will literally shut up. You can see those kind of cowards. There's a lot of people like that. They're very vocal as long as they know they're in an environment where they can't get hit. But look, when you're in a training environment where you're training fighting, that's not the environment. The environment is you act like a jerk, you're going to get beat up. There is no little public school rule that you cannot use physicality and threats of violence. You understand? So in that culture, you get a different education. You don't act like a beta male that just runs his lip because he's been trained in public schools thinking he could talk to anybody or run his lip to anybody. You're going to get your ashtray whooped. Okay, you're going to get your ashtray whooped. You should train a different way. You get trained at no. You don't. You make a challenge, you better be able to back it up. You better be able to back it up. If you want to run your mouth to somebody, you better back it up. because you will get challenged. You will get called out. So it's a totally different level. It's a totally different type of education, right? I mean, look at all these entitled, spoiled American kids who will run their lip at anybody because if the minute the minute they're threatened, they will say, "I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you." Right, like this, right? You're not going to be. You're not, in a dojo. You've already signed your waiver. You're not going to get that. You're going to get your ass straight whooped. I mean, see these like such arrogant little kids in these colleges. You watch them on videos, but they've never got beat up. They've never got. Remember, it's like those feminist girls who thought they were so tough. They went out to these protests, and then they were actually trying to start fights with men, and then the men hit back and just knocked them out and just beat the crap out of them. I mean, they just get a reality check. Like they actually think like these little pencil skinny, like 95-pound feminists. They actually think they can stand up to 100, even small man, like 135-pound man. They actually think that they can beat them up. I mean, it's the height of delusion, because they have some goth earrings and some nose rings and wear spikes on their clothing. I mean, these people are living in a freaking la-la land. You know what I mean? They're living in a freaking delusional land. And they're picking on a guy who's a conservative in a polo shirt, who's a conservative man, but, he will kick your ass, Trey. So you can't just live in a fantasy and pretend like you're tough and then act like you're tough because you're pretending like you're tough and fooling yourself and deluding yourself into your own toughness. Toughness only comes about with being around other tough individuals who beat you up on a regular basis. That's the only way toughness comes. You understand? There's no other way to get toughness. You can't mentally think about toughness and get toughness. You get tough by getting whooped. That's how you get tough. And that's why for you younger kids out there who are scared to train and only train the firearms arts because you're actually scared to get beat up all the time, I'm challenging you. I'm daring you and challenging you in a good way. Don't be deluded in yourself. Don't fall into that trap because that will come to harm your children in the future. If you're still young and you're able-bodied and you can train these other arts where you get beat up a lot, I'm not saying trust me, you're not being a sadomasochist. You're allowing yourself to become mentally tough, and when the person you become after that is so much stronger, seriously. That's one thing that the firearms arts don't give you, because the firearms art, unless you're actually in warfare and you have the consequence of death, it doesn't have that. You don't get beat up in the same way you do when you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or MMA. You don't get dominated like that. And even if you're doing airsoft, you get shot, you're like, oh, okay, I got shot, thank you, okay. It's like, the consequence is low, okay? And obviously you can't train with real bullets because then you'd be dead. Okay, so people who go to war, obviously that's different because now you're dealing with real consequences of death, okay? But other than that, for civilians, no. That's why it's important for civilians to train. Peaceably Pete Militia includes the empty hands arts as well. And every seventh defender, even Special Forces, will tell you, a lot of them are black belts in Jiu-Jitsu, will tell you need a base in empty hands because as you see with active self-protection videos, many times the people are wrestling you as you're trying to pull your gun out. Okay? So you have to have those levels of self-defense. And not only is it good for you, it's healthy for you, it mentally makes you tougher. You have to face that kind of fear. You have to face people dominating you. You have to work through that hardship. Okay? So some of you are scared and some of you keep running. So don't be bitches. You're acting like a little girls. And I'm talking about untrained girls, okay? And some of these girls who are training with us, they're showing way more warrior strength and mental fortitude than you, even though you're guys. So don't be no bitches like that, okay? You got to train. The training helps mollify your unlimited desires. The training helps strengthen you, and the training helps you build a sense of realism in yourself, which then becomes a great foundation to learn the other arts on top of that, okay? Because you will value as one of your core principles, don't be delusional when you train. Okay? Whereas in the firearms arts, that's why I don't like about only firearms arts training. You can get someone deluded. You can get someone deluded, right? You need to have, you can just think you're badass because you can tear up the course, or you can tear up the steel targets and stuff like that. You can just pretend that, but any of these warfighters will tell you when you're in the chaos of war, it's totally different, you know? And that's why even the warfighters all train BJJ, MMA, knife fighting. They all train it because they value that type of mindset. Okay? So that's why the king is always pushing you all to do that and to train in all the different arts that the king teaches, because that is part of the Peace Police, Peace Militia training, education, okay, that you receive. Okay? And I know, yes, we are trying to develop the system. Andy's got to hurry up and work on that. But everybody knows, and everybody should pressure him. Every time you see Andy, just pressure him and say, where's my system? You don't, these poor children are needing the encouragement and the education that the king is giving through the martial arts training. But also, if they live in different countries, if they live in different places, we're trying to develop a system where you can log in, you pay a monthly fee or something like that, a subscription fee, or your dojo, the kids you're training in that local area, you guys make a subscription fee. You sign in, just like Gracie University or Marcelo University or any of these big dojos do. You sign in and you get the teaching of the technique, but also you get the education that the king gives to the students, whatever art we're training. Okay, but in order to do that, we need to have a system. In order to do that, we need to have probably an extra camera person that follows us around and does all the training. So we do need your support, okay? So for all those kids that are out there that want to train with the king and become future kings and queens as well, support us on Patreon, support us on our PayPal,
The link is under this.
Even a dollar tip, okay? If you're stimulated by this and you are caring for the next generation and you want to invest in the next generation, even give us a tip of $1, give us a tip of $5, give us a top tip of $20. It doesn't matter. That will all go towards creating our internet database system so that we can train these kids in the education of people militia. And not only you have to be here in Newfoundland, that's the best, obviously best, but the second best is your people in Korea, in Singapore, in Philippines, wherever you're at, help us create that database so that the lessons and the teaching that I give these kids also will go directly to your kids and your sanctuary children out there so that we can train people militia together, and at least they can see what we're doing, try to emulate that, and your community can train that together. And of course, bother Andy Song a lot so he hurry up and makes that system. Which I've been ragging on him for many months to make, but he's not making it. And he keeps on making excuses. So make sure all you good sanctuarians, you good Samaritans out there, send messages to Andy Song and bitch and complain to him and tell him to hurry up and make that system. Now he's laughing. Okay. All right, folks. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us on the King's Report. Give us a tip as well, okay?
Resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. God's not dead. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion.
Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
I'm down here at the range today. I just learned a new technique from the father of the .44 Magnum, Elmer Keith, which is called shooting out of the notch, which allows you to make really long distance shots and still have an extremely precise sight picture. So I brought my CW9 car down, and with this little gun, we're gonna shoot this little munchkin at 200 yards up in the hills, applying this technique, and hopefully we'll make the shot. To apply this technique, instead of using the blade of the front sight lined up with the top of the rear sight, I'm going to take the dot of the front sight and raise it up so that it's out of the notch, but I'm still going to keep the front sight on my target. Bringing that front sight up like that is going to compensate for the bullet drop over that excessively long distance with just this little gun. So if applied right, we should be making contact. Let's see how it goes. shot, so I'm a little bit out of breath because you gotta run to make sure that that is what I thought it was, and it was. So while making this shot, from that distance with these white dot sights, it literally would cover the entire target. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So using the Elmer Keith technique, you were able to raise it out of the back notch, I can't breathe, out of the back notch, allowing you to keep your accuracy, aim, and also still see the target, which is key because it was a hard shot, not gonna lie. But yeah, it went great, and Elmer knows what he's talking about. And for such a small gun to be able to take that hit, I'm very impressed with this. All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and I'll see you out on the range.
That was awesome. Hey, can I try that one? Yeah, let's do it with the 380. Does everybody have eyes and ears?
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today. Car Arms. Magnum Research.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Monday, June 11th, 2018, 9th year of Chungi, 4th month, 28th day by the Heavenly calendar. Welcome back, folks. And the long, oh wait, now you remember, everybody remembers that the True Romance Contest ended on Friday, midnight Cinderella Slipper, just to let you remember. So we've had a couple of days to look at the entries. Don't say how many there were. Don't say how many, let's just say there were many, many, many. Okay, there were too much to count. Okay, too many to count because we have such successful, beautiful, blessed couples. Okay, who have great absolute sex lives. All right, so kudos to all of you, and we had just more than we could count. Okay, let's put it that way, Tim. Okay. Just to make sure everybody's encouraged to continue to develop their absolute sex life. Okay, and we have looked through them. And we have decided on a winner. We have decided on a winner. Okay, I can't say the name, but of course they did a great job in listening to directions clearly. They signed the testimony. Okay, they actually physically signed it, put their signature on it. They also did not forget the pledge. Remember, you're supposed to put the pledge in there at the end about that you pledge to continue on in bringing joy to God with a strong marriage and absolute sex, beautiful sex life in your marriage. Okay? So, here is the winning piece. All names are excluded. So I'm going to read it slowly just in case I missed it. But anyways, all the things are slow. And this is the winning piece in our True Romance Contest. The winner, the couple who won this prize, you will get $120 forwarding gift certificate to the fine restaurant of your choice for your night out at this beautiful, expensive restaurant. $120. The king will pay for it, okay? All right? So let us know. You know who you are when we read this. So when you guys figure out that it's you, make sure you give us an email. Choose the expensive restaurant of your choice. Okay, send it to us. We'll call them, get a gift certificate, and send it to you, and you'll be off. You'll be off and away on your beautiful romantic night. This is a great contest, eh? If you guys are, when we do the broadcast, and all you folks that are watching, when you're inspired, give us a tip. You know what I mean? If you're inspired by certain content, give us a tip, because then we can pass that forward when we have these contests to the folks and the young people and the blessed couples that are getting blessed, and that helps encourage them and helps these fun contests continue, okay? So make sure you do the ethical thing, okay? Donate to PayPal if you are inspired by this ministry, if it's helping your life. Make sure you're not just consuming it freely and being a commie. Make sure you're also showing appreciation by donating to the ministry, or you can just give us a small tip. And those don't go directly to us. Everything will go towards the ministry and the development of our system, etc. You name it. But wherever you feel encouraged during the broadcast, if you just drop us a dollar tip, drop us a $5 tip. You want to make a bigger, substantial donation, God bless you. We of course appreciate those things. But even just a small tip when you're inspired, this is a good thing to do. I mean, you give a tip to a waiter, we're certainly providing you more value than a waiter and a waitress at a restaurant, right? So, and it's not like we're just doing this because it's fun. It is serious work to do a broadcast, 3-hour broadcast every single day. And there's a lot of research, a lot of work and manpower that goes into this kind of thing to have some kind of level of quality that you enjoy. And of course, we can get better, but drop us a tip. If you feel inspired by any of these contests, if you feel inspired by the romance contest and you want to see more romantic, beautiful, absolute sex marriages, successful, blessed family couples that are coming up in the next generation with beautiful sex lives and that are teaching that absolute sex message, drop us a tip so we can reward those kind of folks who are actualizing their training. All right, that being said, here is the winner of the true romance contest. There were so many, more than the sands of the sea. Okay, but we had to choose between so many. It's a difficult choice. Here is a winner. Here's the story. Our romantic day started with me, the husband, preparing a nice breakfast and bringing it to my wife in our bedroom. We spent the rest of the morning and early afternoon relaxing. After my wife finished getting ready, I took her to a Korean restaurant where we had an early dinner and spent a lot of quality time talking and bonding with one another. As we were progressing to the evening, I planned a massage session for my wife and got the candles, music, and bed ready. I said, boy, work it, boy. Well, he's a young king. He's a young king. Okay, he's a young king. Watch out. I said, work it, young king. Work it, boy.
Watch out. Don't give any identifying.
No, I know. Meanwhile, the bath was getting filled with hot water and an aromatic bath bomb bubbling away. Around 25 minutes later, after the massage, we had a steaming hot bath together, where we fed each other and shared a platter filled with a selection of cheeses, grapes, and chocolate-covered strawberries, accompanied with cherry juice. Cute, baby, cute. I like that. That's cute. That's cute. Same ambiance with candles and music. Of course, we ended our evening by going to our bedroom. Amen. And I Jew. Now, these are husband and wife, okay? So that's why we celebrate this. This is not fornication. This is not before you're married, you bum, dumbass, trade fools. This is husband and wife. This is the beauty of sexuality and romance in the glory of the blessing of marriage and just being under God's royal authority. Praise God. And look, they listened clearly. We pledged to continue to work and develop our romantic relationship. And of course, we know them, the couple, wonderful couple, and they do practice love and respect, biblical love and respect. the husband loving the wife unconditionally, the wife respecting the husband unconditionally. They do practice to their utmost degree, at the best of the ability, and of course getting better every day. So congratulations, you know who you are, secret romance couple. Send us the fine expensive, make it expensive, okay? You got $120 here. So send us the expensive restaurant of your choice in your local area. Send it to Tim, tcelder at gmail.com. Same place you sent the romance contest thing. And let us know. We will get you a gift certificate, and you will be on your way to a wonderful, wonderful night. Wonderful night. God bless you, folks.
I'm refreshing my email to see if they...
Okay, so God bless you guys that won the contest. We congratulate you this day. Hey, and if you viewers out there in Interland, if you were encouraged by that very romantic True Romance contest, and you like the contest that we're doing, and we're allowing the invisible hand of God and the free market and the free association that we all share. This is a way better way of doing the contests, allowing anybody to participate and share their story. If you like the contest and you want us to have more of these True Romance contests to encourage our entire community to have such powerful, beautiful marriages and romance and love and sex and absolute sex in our marriages that are so healthy and so beautiful, and of course are the greatest environment for our children, when the husband and wife love each other and they create that beautiful sense of stability and romance and healthy sexuality that the children learn is in the beauty and the glory of marriage. If you like the contest, hey, drop us a tip. Drop us a tip. Again, we are better than your waitress. We are better than your waiter at Perkins and McDonald's. So definitely try to support the broadcast and the different contests we have so that we can continue them and continue to reward the wonderful folks out there that are really working on their blessings. All right, folks, that's it for the contest. Congratulations to the winner. Send us your email in the restaurant of your fine choosing, and you will be off on a beautiful holiday together at a very fine restaurant. Praise God. All right, folks, let's now go to our headline news with, I keep calling him Tim the Agent Elder, but remember I was talking about yesterday during our service, we've got to get in the habit of referring to each other as kings and queens. Okay, and I know people are going to bitch and complain. Say, well, what do we call the king then? Well, you guys will make it up. The Holy Spirit will guide you, and you'll have something else that will do that. But in the process, we should get in a habit of referring to one another as king and queen, because that not only celebrates an elevated message, it also reminds us internally that we have to respect one another, especially those under Father's authority and under God's royal lineage, in acknowledging the identity that Christ has given us. Okay, so let's say he's King Timothy the First.
Thank you. King
Timothy the First. That's better than Tim the Agent Elder. I'll call him now King Timothy the First. I may mess up a couple times, but we will try to. I'll try to keep that changing so that everybody gets a habit of that while you watch the broadcast. You'll also see us actualize that. So that way we can show that to one another. And the more we do that to one another, the more beautiful that kingship culture exists in the kingdom of God that we are experiencing in sanctuary and under Father's authority. The more all sorts of people who are prepared by the Holy Ghost, all sorts of able-type Christians, all sorts of evangelicals, all sorts of people who may be Mormon or Jehovah's Witness, etc., but they're waiting for the Lord to, all these kind of prepared, even Falun Gong, Buddhist members, whatever people, all these people who are prepared will see that and say, wow, that's amazing. And they don't even know, but they will be transformed by the power of the Holy Ghost and by our 5% responsibility, acknowledging the identity that Christ has given to us. Okay, so we have to get over this fact of guilt shame and feeling weird about calling each other king, queen. We have to elevate one another, not for our own egos or for our own boasting, but so that we all know who we are as a community, and we all know who the greatest King of Kings is, who give us this incredible blessing of standing with him as co-heirs with Christ in the kingdom of God. Okay, King Timothy the First. Headline news. We'll go to him.
But I'm still your agent. Right.
We can call him King Agent too. Okay, go ahead.
On the upper left of Trump, he's saying that the brace for world economy is the most important week of the year. A number of things are happening this week that will affect likely to affect the economy. The markets will be reacting to this past weekend's G7 conference, where there was this big sort of a tiff between Trump and especially Trudeau and also Merkel. And so we'll see what the markets think about that. And also the U.S. Fed is expected to raise rates again this week. And also the Japanese Central Bank, the European Central Bank also making decisions. So all sorts of important things. Also the summit in Singapore between Trump and Kim is also maybe going to affect the world economy. North Korea public unaware of historic meeting. It has not been reported in North Korea. Well, that's not surprising. They will only report it if they can, after the fact, after they can say, oh, this was what our dear leader did, and he really gave Trump a pummeling, and the Americans went back with their tails between their legs. That kind of a report will probably come out afterwards. Dennis Rodman is offering his support. But the White House is not saying thank you. They're saying, we think we can handle this. But I don't know, maybe Kim Jong-un may say, yeah, okay, Dennis, come on in. I don't know. Summits are tricky. Kennedy, Nixon, and Reagan learned the hard way. This is an article that they're talking about the Kennedy, Nixon, Reagan, their experiences with the Soviet Union, which is quite a different thing from negotiating with a tiny nation like North Korea. So anyway, the big gamble. McDonald's for Kim, mission of peace. This summit is going to happen our time at 9 o'clock tonight. 9 o'clock tonight, the two people are, Trump and Kim are scheduled to begin their summit, and the schedule right now is that they will begin one-on-one for the first 15 minutes with just an interpreter in the room, and then they will do what they call 1+1, where each leader will call in one advisor, and they will continue, and then they will have, I think, maybe a larger meeting later on. But that's the way it's going to go. So, there's no way of predicting what's going to happen here. I think at this point we just have to leave it in a true father's hands, because I know that he will be there. He will be the not one-on-one plus a big one. Yes. He'll be there. He'll be there. True father will be there, I'm sure. And we just have to leave it in his hands, I think, at this point. I don't know if they're going to serve McDonald's. I kind of doubt it. But anyway, Robert De Niro got himself into the news, saying bad things about Trump. It seems to be
a bozo loser.
Yeah, I think at the Tony Awards. I mean, who watches this stuff anymore?
What a freaking loser, De Niro. What a punk. He used to come out trying to pretend that he was a conservative. Like, he always played these conservative characters that were mob bosses, but they were not liberal lunatics. And then he comes out as a flaming liberal lunatic.
Anyway, he got himself a standing ovation from, of course,
shish kebab.
Liberal lunatics. Twitter CEO apologizes for eating Chick-fil-A. Man bites strap hanger's lip off in subway station brawl. And woman drove 2 children in pet kennels. And a report on Pennsylvania priest abuse to be most extensive yet. This report has been going on, and it has been studying. It's been investigating Catholic dioceses throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And,
the Vatican is dying. This is amazing.
Coming out.
The whole Vatican is literally dying. Mm-hmm. It's the Antichrist Church. It's literally the false prophet Antichrist Church, and it's completely dying. This is really the last pope. Their whole system is going to be revamped. I heard that Cook Chung talking about they may be going to a cardinal election system after this pope. So this is literally the end of the popery. And then basically what they're looking to do from now on is do like 4-year terms where they rotate the cardinals through as pope, because literally the pope's office is now over.
Well, yeah, and the last pope also resigned during his term.
It's true. So, like the whole prophecy that this is the last pope is basically coming true.
John Kelly calls the White House a miserable place to work. Belmont Stakes loser owner calls for investigation into tactics used during race. Of course, Justify, apparently Soros is a secret, one of the secret owners, won the Belmont Stakes and so won the Triple Crown. And but the losing owner is calling foul. Deal makers brace for AT&T Time Warner ruling by the federal government, and bidding for Fox will get serious. Cost of government rises as local newspapers close. Yeah, turns out that as a town loses its newspaper, the government of that town becomes less efficient.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise, yes.
Surprise, surprise.
A travel ban, gerrymandering, top Supreme Court's closing flurry of cases. The Supreme Court is coming to the end of its term. It'll end at the end of this month, and they have to rule, or they're expected to rule on President Trump's travel ban, and also the way that congressional districts are drawn up in certain states. White House blasts Canada's Trudeau. This was quite a thing. The White House, President Trump feels betrayed by Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau.
Because he's a little globalist fake actor.
And so actually the United States withdrew its endorsement of the G7 final statement. And that's very good. Very rare.
That's historic, isn't it?
Yes, that's, I don't know if that's ever happened before.
That's amazing. Trump is a freaking wrecking ball to the New World Order Rothschild Bank corporate government plan. He is a wrecking ball. Check out this agave nectar.
So what the White House is saying is that there was an agreement, but then when once President Trump got on his plane and left, Trudeau sort of stabbed President Trump in the back, is what the White House is saying. Canada is saying,
he did.
No. Yeah.
He's a little punk, a little globalist, little, mime operative punk.
So anyway, France and Germany are trying to lecture Trump. Kudlow is Lawrence Kudlow. He's the president's economic advisor. Unleashed, he's very much attacking Canada. And France, fits of anger cannot dictate international cooperation. Merkel, Trump's actions sobering, depressing, etc. Rough talk, sour G7 mood, confrontations. Trump was actually considering not going to this G7 in the first place. And though he did arrive late and leave early, so he really felt that he had the better things to be doing. He wanted to put more emphasis on the Singapore summit. And China and Russia solidify growing Eastern Bloc. Yes, really the Democrats are pushing Russia into the arms of China. And Xi Jinping and Putin had a meeting during this last weekend. Let's see, going back over here to the left, a rise of secularism fueling violence against the clergy, maybe. And over here on the right, Sweden tries to halt march to cashlessness. Yeah, Sweden is becoming a cashless society.
Oh, wow.
They're on that way, yes.
There it is.
Auto lenders wrap up a risk to win more customers. Huge brawl erupts in crowd as heavyweight boxing match and fighters stop to watch. I see. So there was a boxing match, but there was a fight in the crowd that was more interesting than the match itself. And so the fighters stopped their fight to watch the fight in the crowd.
Oh my gosh, look at this. New Austrian government closes 7 mosques, expels 60 imams.
Yes.
And also in Italy, the new government leaders say, illegal immigrants, pack your bags.
That's what they're saying, yes. Yep.
Get out of here. Islam is not a compatible civilization. You're going back.
Mm-hmm.
That is a correct statement. Go ahead.
Let's see. Young reporter and leak investigation enjoyed meteoric rise in D.C. journalism. This was a young woman who is now working for New York Times, but she worked for other publications in the past, and she had a relationship with a 57-year-old man who happened to be the person who was in charge of the security for the Senate Intelligence Committee. talk about resources. And so, you know, she got a lot of scoops and everything. And New York Times is saying, yeah, but this all took place before we hired her. But hello, you probably hired her because of what she was doing.
Is that
because of the story she was writing through her relationship with this man who was the chief of security of the Senate Intelligence Committee. I mean, come on. Boy. Okay. You know, the whole time they were talking about men seeking beautiful women and women seeking resources, I was thinking about this story. This is exactly what was happening.
There you go.
Israel plane fires warning to deter Gaza balloon kite attacks and destroys Hamas undersea tunnel. Saudi Arabia says new Yemen missile was intercepted. Ivanka and Jared pose with Capitals after Stanley Cup win, the Washington Capitals. And let's see, polio making a comeback. That's been in the news a few times this year. Berlin's punk rock district charges into battle against Google. Lonely people twice as likely to die from heart problems.
There you go.
Don't be lonely. Goldman tips Brazil for World Cup after 1 million simulations. So the World Cup is being played in Russia this month and next, and I guess Brazil is expected to win. That's hardly news. They often win. Romney maps out big Senate plans. A hero pit bull saves baby from fire, carries by diaper. Wow. Venezuela's long road to ruin. More stories about the train crash in Venezuela. Yeah. In Newark, police cameras and the internet watch you. In Guatemala, woman searches for 50 relatives buried by the volcano. A Mexican leftist frontrunner widens lead for the presidency. Eminem blasted over gunshot sound effects. Amazon slammed over China factory conditions. Budget cutters may doom the International Space Station. YouTube terminates channel of firearms parts retailer without warning.
Wow, again.
Yeah, this was a Brownwell, I think is the name of the company.
Brownells.
Brownells, is that how you pronounce it? Brownells?
That's a huge company. They shut down Brownells channel?
That's what Brownells is saying, yes.
Wow, Brownells is big, man. They also sponsor TIG, TIG Tegan as well. They're a large company.
So they're encouraging people they give a phone number that people can call to protest this.
Wow, let's put the phone number on screen.
Okay.
So if you're watching this broadcast, please contact and please call this phone number that we're going to put on screen right away so that to protest YouTube's taking down Brownell's channel, who is a law-abiding firearms, parts manufacturer.
650-253-0000, option 5. So here, this is a Brownell's tweet.
Yes, Brownell's, yeah.
Brownell's.
They also, 80-year-old gun supply company, they also support Black Guns Matter. They also support TIG Tegan. Wow, Brownell's been terminated. They're huge. They're a huge company.
So Brownell's, this is their tweet. Brownell's YouTube channel has been terminated without warning or notice. If you're opposed to the attacks on our community's First and Second Amendment rights, please contact Google 650-253-0000, option 5 for YouTube.
Wow.
Message YT.
These Google basket cases, Google, man.
So forth, yeah. So
650. 253-0000.
And then you take option 5.
I'm calling that right now, but you go ahead and keep speaking.
Suicide hotline calls jumped 25% after celebrity deaths. Protests over plan for Muslim rapper to perform at Bataclan. That was where there was that Islamic massacre at that theater in Paris. Immigration raid worries landscapers relying on foreign help. Let's see. A stampede of meatless products overrun grocery stores. Come on now. This is the thing about having a touch screen. Sometimes you're just trying to scroll it up, but it goes ahead. A stampede of meatless. Okay, we already did that. Supermodels quick flag ends Grand Prix 1 lap early.
She messed it up.
She messed it up.
She got nervous. She got nervous.
She got nervous. Is it now? Is it now? Is it now? Flight diverted after passenger with blow-up doll acts, quote, disgracefully, unquote.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness. We can imagine what was happening there.
What? These people are nuts.
That was
man.
not a true romance story.
Golly.
All right.
That's a pathetic story.
It's a pathetic story, yes.
Golly. Get a freaking...
Yes.
Get some freaking social skills, for Christ's sake. All right, folks. Thank you, King Timothy I for that.
Thank you.
Isn't that nice? I like that, King Timothy I. That sounds kind of good. That sounds quite good, isn't it? What's going on, Techni? You good? Oh, it's okay. We have a guest coming up soon. Let's look real quick at the Islamicized Me, day 25, our dhimmi converting to Islam. And this is Davey Wood's production about exposing the realities of Islam and using their own scriptures. And this is day 25. No volume? Why does this do this every time the computer moves just a bit? What a super pain. Is it working now?
Brother. All praise be to Allah. Praise be Allah. I praise Allah for creating the world's biggest arms, brother. But let me let you Sharia maniacs in on a little secret. Let me tell you how Allah helped me get these pythons to be these huge boulders, brother, going from 11 inches to 24 inches, brother. Did you know that Allah, in His infinite wisdom, through His messenger, allows us to squeeze the lifeblood to kill every cartoonist who would dare mock and lampoon our beloved messenger by making cartoons mocking the way he looks? Yes, brother, let me tell you about my career as a Sharia maniac, my career as a jihadi. When I became a follower of Allah and His messenger, I embarked on jihad fi sabilillah, and many a cartoonist had their head squeezed like a pimple by these pythons. And the more kuffar that I was able to squeeze their heads for lampooning the Prophet by mocking him in cartoons, the bigger my pythons got. And so now, brother, when you see Halal Hogan and you see the guns, these guns are ready to rock and roll all over any cartoonist who would dare mock Allah and His messenger. Do you want these guns? Do you want to have pythons so that little girls can swing upon? Then you need to get a cartoonist who would dare mock Allah and His messenger and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze.
You guys know what? This is bothering me about this whole cartoon drawing contest, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, look at us. We're sitting here watching this show when we could actually be doing something about it. I just don't really know what to do, but we need to do something about this.
Well, it is a problem that we're only going to be Muslims for a few more days, right?
Yeah.
And this is our last chance. This is our last chance to do something big.
Yes.
Before we fulfill our oaths.
Yes. Allahu Akbar.
Well, what are we supposed to do?
Let's ask the backpack.
Backpack. What should we do about Robert Spencer making fun of and mocking our prophet?
Backpack, magic backpack. I'm the make the Mac attack backpack. With this sack, reacts, I'm like a maniac. I got stacks of facts to keep you all on track.
Here we go.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, great.
Here we have Ibn Ishaq, and we have Muhammad showing us what to do about people who made fun of him. Oh. Here's a guy who had two singing girls, two slave girls, and it says he had two singing girls, Fartana and her friend, who used to sing satirical songs about the apostle, about Muhammad, so he ordered that they should be killed with him. Ooh. So the guy had to die, and the singing girls, because they're singing, making fun of him, they had to die too. And if you look at these passages, these are talking about people who are making fun of him with poems and songs, and he keeps saying that they have to die, they have to be killed. You have to hunt him down and kill him. So the modern version of this, would be making cartoons, drawing him, insulting him, mocking him through pictures. What does this tell you?
He's finna die.
He's got to die.
Not only that, Sahih Muslim. Look at this, 5537. It was narrated that Abdullah said, the messenger of Allah said, the people who will be most severely punished on the day of resurrection will be the image makers. It's not just making fun of Muhammad, but it's painting the pictures.
It's doing both, right? Mocking and making
This is
images.
doubly bad.
God, this is like...
He's about to die.
Clinging to the hair on Satan's back.
Ooh, he's about to die.
2 reasons he should die.
Yo, it's so Demi.
Hey,
Demi,
Hey, Demi. The heck are you wearing?
Oh, well, I was reading that if I become Muslim, I don't have to pay the jizya anymore.
You were reading?
Oh, yeah.
Reading is a dangerous activity for a young man, unless it's how to build an IED bomb instruction manual.
Wait. If he wants to be a Muslim, let's explain to him what that means.
So you want to follow the example of Muhammad, right?
Yes, of course.
Backpack. What was Muhammad's greatest desire?
Oh, come on. Come on. Oh, can you believe it, folks? This is right at the key moment. Let's try to switch to time capsule here. Ridiculous. Absurd. Oh, this is ridiculous.
Reading?
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Reading is a dangerous activity for a young man, unless it's how to build an IED bomb instruction manual.
Wait. If he wants to be a Muslim, let's explain to him what that means.
So you want to follow the example of Muhammad, right?
Yes, of course.
Backpack. What was Muhammad's greatest desire?
There is no mix-up. The prophet can't fix up.
Sahih al-Bukhari 2797. Muhammad said, "By him in whose hands my soul is, I would love to be martyred in Allah's cause, and then come back to life, and then get martyred, and then come back to life again, and then get martyred, and then come back to life again, and then get martyred." So, what was Muhammad's greatest desire?
To be martyred?
And you follow Muhammad's example now, right?
Sure.
So what does that mean?
I don't know.
It means you're gonna kill Robert Spencer.
Thanks, Rachel. You're the best. No, you are. Everyone I talked to said, if you want help, go to Rachel. No, they did not disappoint. And by the way, I'm going to put out a wonderful Yelp review about how helpful you've been. Yeah, and by the way, please don't tell my friend Robert, my old war buddy, that we were asking about him. Yeah, we want this to be a surprise. Okay, yeah, you'll definitely be hearing about it. Guess who just sweet-talked every hotel receptionist in the entire city to find out where our good friend is staying?
To see her and she told me I could. Something tells me I'm into something good.
All right, there you go.
Just in case people don't know, Robert Spencer is an American author and blogger and a key figure of the counter-jihad movement in the United States.
Well, let's watch the Day 26 continuation. Audio.
Wake up, it's Fajr time, very important day. We are sending Jihad Jr. to kill the Copper King. It's gonna be a heroic day.
Jihad Junior to Halal Heroes. Jihad Junior to Halal Heroes. Come in, Halal Heroes.
Copy, Jihad Junior. Are you in position?
Roger that, Halal Heroes. I'm in position outside the room of Kafir King.
Jihad Junior, proceed with Operation Alibaba.
What is Operation Alibaba?
The Kafir King will eventually open the door to leave the room. As soon as his neck is in view, strike it with the knife! Chop his body off!
Wait. Let me tweet this selfie of myself right before killing Kafir King.
Tweet this selfie.
Jihad Junior, stop goofing off and kill the Kafir
Chop
King!
his body off! Why do you keep saying chop his body off?
Well, because if you cut all the way through the neck, then his body falls off.
Yeah, so you mean his head comes off?
No. It's all perspective, right? So because the head is the center of consciousness, then it makes more sense if you say to chop his body off.
Oh my goodness, we're trying to kill the Kafir King and you're talking about perspective. I'm trying to get this raisin-headed flunky to go in there and wage jihad and you're talking about perspective.
We'll be starting very soon.
Wait, Jihad Junior, did you just hear me call you a raisin head?
Affirmative.
Well, in his defense, in Sahih Abu Khari, Muhammad did call Ethiopians raisin heads, so it can't be wrong for him to call black people raisin heads. Copy that?
Wait, what?
Affirmative.
Jihad Junior, report immediately. Are you there? Jihad Junior, can you hear us?
Just like a jihadi, bringing a knife to a battle of wits.
Jihad Junior, answer.
What you mean, battle of wits?
Jihad Junior, come in. Oh, man.
There's Robert Spence. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, Lord.
Jihad Junior, come in. Jihad Junior, what is your position? Jihad Junior. Jihad Junior, report now or else.
Jihad Junior's not here, halal heroes.
All right, folks, there you go. That's a crazy. There's David Wynn and crew. Oh my goodness, what an amazing, hilarious series. All right, folks, we're gonna take a short break, and we will be back with our special guest of the morning. We'll be right back. Stay with us. See you on the other side.
Fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. God's not dead. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report. Second King reporting live from the Chunigung Palace Studios to all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God. Good morning, folks. It is 7:13 in the morning today, and we are joined with Mr. Wally Hostetter. I met this fine gentleman when we were at Blade Show, and I was just struck by the beauty of his incredible art pieces, the katanas, wakizashi tantos that he's making, traditional Japanese swords that he's making, a Western gentleman, but all in deeply in the ways of the old sword-making skills. Let's go to his About Wally bio section here on his website, shinymoon13.com. Wally Hostetter and his wife Donna are true lovers of Japanese culture. Living in the tranquility of rural Florida, they have surrounded themselves with Japanese gardens and bonsai gardens, as well as traditional Japanese tea house and bathhouse. In addition to being a sword maker, Wally restores Japanese antiques like tansu and any type Japanese lacquerware. Wally has been collecting swords since 1995. When he first became interested in martial arts, he learned how to forge blades from Don Fogg and Steven Schwartzer. As nothing more than a hobby, he started making swords, doing his own repair work, and was quickly asked by others to do the same for them. It's now his full-time career, and he loves it. Wally has worked with Japanese sword lovers and martial arts practitioners worldwide. Some of his local clients include Troy Baxley, president of the Florida Tokenkai, Bob Elder, owner of East Coast Martial Arts Supply, and students and friends of Toyama Batto Jitsu U.S. Federation. Wally, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're very welcome.
Hey, you know, it was amazing to see Blade Show and all those incredible knives and vendors that came out. I particularly, we were with that big group, that church group, and we talked before the break a couple of days ago, and we were just walking through the aisles, and we saw your display of strikingly beautiful, handmade, hand-forged pieces that look literally like they're out of a ancient Japanese magazine. Tell us how you got into the martial arts of sword arts. And of course, and the second question is, how did you enjoy Blaze Show as a whole?
I got involved in martial arts because I started collecting swords 25 years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I needed to understand how the sword worked, so how it could be repaired. Because at first I was having some of the repairs on mine that needed done by other people. And the downtime is just incredibly long. Sometimes it takes years to get stuff done. So I investigated that and started doing my own work and realized that it doesn't take that long to do this kind of work.
Yeah.
I don't know why it takes the other artisans as long as it does, but again, they might be using different methods than I use. I don't know. But once I got started in martial arts, the students that were in the classes that I was in, of course, seen the stuff that I was using, and they asked me if I could repair anything that they had, either re-up a handle or repair a saya, make a new one, make a handle. So I started doing that, and it went from there to a hobby for other people, and then I went full-time 5 years ago.
Really?
Doing
wow.
Yeah. I was a body man for 35 years.
Oh, you're a body mechanic. Okay. So that's why.
That's where I learned a lot of the finish techniques that I now use on the Japanese pieces.
Wow, interesting. Now, how did you get into the Japanese arts? I'm assuming you were doing some type of iaido, where you're using live blades or some type of blades which have steel and not just kendo. How did you get into those kind of arts?
Well, they pertain to the sword itself. You actually use the sword. You cut tatami, which is a target. It's rolled up that they take off the floors in Japan, and they normally would just throw it away, but we buy it in big container trucks, and they ship it over here into America. And then we roll it up, soak it in water, and put it on a stand, and then we cut it. It's supposed to be the equivalent of cutting human flesh.
Right, you do the tameshigiri, and boy, it's Boy, doing that for the first time, you realize when you watch it on video on YouTube, those guys are just slicing through. They're so easy. But when you do it for the first time, the thing won't even go through it and it'll fly off. You're doing it correctly.
Well, it's all technique. You know, if you don't have the technique right, it's not going to cut correctly. And of course, you can damage the sword if you don't cut correctly either.
Right, absolutely. Now, we used to, in Korea, me and my brother, we had these cold steel, I'm sure they use like very, very hard steel, cold steel samurai swords, which we would use to cut huge bamboo that we could access in Korea.
Right.
You know, and it's like, it's an amazing feeling. I mean, there was this huge bamboo trees, you know, 30, 40 feet high, and one cut, boom, one cut. You can go from basically, you know, a down to up or an up to down. If you want to do a double strike, you would go from a down to up, and then as the cut piece is flying, you do another up to down strike, and obviously angled at the proper angle. And that bamboo would split with those katanas. They were so amazing.
Yeah, all the pieces that I make for martial artists, or even the ones that I make for show, I test them on bamboo or oak limbs on trees that grow here in Florida.
Really? You try them on oak limbs? That's hardwood, man.
Yeah. I cut dried bamboo with my swords.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. No, yeah. Oh, wow, okay.
Green cuts it considerably easier, as to say, if you want to say easy, but it's easier, and it's a lot less negative to the sword. But if you cut dried bamboo with a sword, you better know what you're doing, or you're going to mess the sword up.
Oh, absolutely, because that dry bamboo will fracture and splinter, and boy, I know exactly what you mean. How was your impression of Blade Show this year compared to other years, or just your impression in general?
I've been going there close to. It's been about 16, 17 years.
Wow.
And it's basically somewhat now back to what it was back then. Because, you know, in 2008, you know, everything kind of like went in the toilet and economy went bad and everything else. And it affected the Blade Show. But now, the last 3 years that I've been going, that room is completely filled now. They used to have a big section at the one end that there wasn't even anybody there. But they are now completely filling in the room, and this year they added an extra room.
Right, they were overflowed into another room. This year was quite large.
That's the first year they did that.
Wow. So President Trump's economy is doing good. People
Evidently,
are buying.
I've sold, the last 3 years, I've sold a relatively expensive piece there at the show.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, in terms of per year, how many blades do you make per year to make a living?
Well, the majority of my business is the restoration work.
Oh, okay, I see. Right.
I restore more original pieces than I actually make. I have made as many as between 8 and 10 in a year. I mean, I could make a lot more than that, but again, I make as the demand, you know, allows me to. And then I've made some pieces, you know, I've backlogged pieces that I've made that I'm still trying to sell. But on the average, I can make probably 8 to 10 on a good year. Some years I haven't made even anywhere near that. But again, I was too busy repairing actual antiques, so I didn't have time for it.
Wow. Well, I'm here looking at some of your swords, just appreciating the incredible beauty that you're being able to produce here. And we're here in the competition sword section. Look at this work of art. I mean, my gosh, you banged that out. You forged that from, and of course, some of these swords you do fold. Some of these swords, as we talked at the Blade Show, you are making from different types of steel, right, that are not folded?
Right. Most of the swords that I have done a couple folded pieces, but they're technically much more complicated, and the risk of failure when you heat treat them is greatly over the top of what just bar stock or round stock mill steel is what we call it. Comes right out of the factory mills. So if I was to make a piece folded, let's say I sold a piece for $4,500. If I was to make it out of folded steel, it would be 3 times that.
Right. Especially if you have to do it by hand.
Right, of course. And it's like I said, it's a much more high technical process to make a folded blade. Now, if I do a folded one, I don't use any tahamagane, which the only place you could get that would be out of Japan. There are a couple places here, a couple groups here in America that are making it, but they're basically making it for themselves. They're not actually making it for anybody else out there because they want to keep a kind of tight hold on that. That way, if they advertise a sword made out of the traditional steel, they can pretty much keep their prices as high as they want because they're the only ones doing that.
Right, and just for people who don't know, the tamahagane is the kind of raw metal, right? That comes out of the forging process. Right. Well, tamahagane is, as a rule, very dirty because it's made from sand iron and charcoal, and it's done in a tatara, which is a big clay pit that's especially built with drying chambers and everything underneath it. And they run them things. I've heard stories that they ran them as much as 30 days. Now, I don't think they do that now because that probably was a larger pit. But once the stuff comes out, it's basically what we call bloomery steel. It's never taken to a molten state. It's smelted. The only thing it's molten is the slag that's run off. They pull it out, knock down the whole chamber, pull it all out, and they let it cool for 3 days. Then they break it up with a trip hammer or a drop hammer, and then the smiths come out, and by the broken sections, they can denote the carbon content. They take it back to their forges, and then they refine it by beating it down into small wafer. We call them crackers. And then they take other ones, and they quench them, and then they break relatively easy. And they can tell by the way they break also the carbon and the toughness of the steel. They stack it on this cracker and then put it into a forge and bring it up to temperature. And then the folding is what they do is once the metal comes to welding heat, which is usually up above 2,800 degrees, when they fold it, they actually squeeze out the imperfections. Right. And once they get the steel to the level that they think it's correct, or there's no more inclusions or crap coming out of it, then that's what they will build into a billet and forge it into a blade. So that was the reason for the forging. The Japanese were very technical about what they did with the product that they had, and that was the best thing they could come up with. And I can give them a lot of credit for making the beautiful steel blades that they made and functional weapons out of something that we would never even attempt to use it because it's too inferior to get quality. Right, and it just shows the mastery of their understanding. Like you're talking about these crackers, the tamahagane crackers, and then basically what they're doing is they're merging them together, right, through this beating process and this heating process. They're becoming correct. They make a billet that's usable, and then they stretch it out into a blade, and then do all the rest of the forging. And they had to figure this out pre-industrialization age, where they're doing this by hand. Well, they started making blades in the shape and dimensions that you see a Japanese sword now back in about the 7th to 8th century. Golly, 7th to 8th century, my goodness. And then, of course, some of the most feared and deadly blades on the planet. I would say probably the most beautiful blade on the planet, but also functional. Right. I've seen blades in Japan that were made in the 8th century. Wow. And they look like the day they were made. Dang. But they were the only culture that revered the cutting weapon for more than just as a cutting weapon. Right. It was a mysterical, religious type thing for them. That's why they maintained them and passed them down from family to son to daimyo to emperor or whatever. And that's why there's so many of them that still survive from that time period. I mean, a lot of them were destroyed in World War II because we didn't realize, yes, they were weapons. They used them against us, but we also didn't realize they were family treasures. Mm-hmm. That's right. Absolutely, that's right. I mean, that's that reverence they had for the weapon that would defend their families, but also could be used to fight evil. And I'm not trying to glorify them or anything. There were a lot of evil samurai, but and of course, many of them were mercenaries. But there were some that were good too. Oh yeah, of course. That's like in any culture. You're going to have bad and good mixed in. I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah. But I mean, like you're talking about, that reverence of the weapon is such an important part. Like we do a lot of the wrought of iron arts up here and the firearm arts. And of course, the AR-15 is our standard rifle here. But it's like you got to respect that weapon, and you got to respect that power, because from that comes the power to take life, offense, but also defensive to defend life.
Right.
You know, but I don't know. I was shocked when we went to Blade Show. It was such a. There were so many things. I was particularly trying to find Asian inspired, because I love samurai swords. I love some of the work that, I don't know if you've seen, like James Williams and some of his work on his Williams blades. They collaborate with CKRT, and also CKRT came out with their own obake type of blade, which is really in the image of a samurai tanto blade, and I carry that on a daily basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I mean, everybody's comfortable with what they want to, keep as a personal, defense piece, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we were just walking around, just trying to find these beautiful sort of, we were Asian-inspired, sort of samurai-inspired, that would kind of honor the training that we do. I trained in Hokushin-Toryu with a 5th degree black belt from Japan when I was in Korea. Mr. Sato-san, I really miss him, Sato-sensei. And, have always loved the samurai sword, its beauty, its the energy, and the work, the hard work that goes into forging one of these blades. And when we passed by your booth, man, your booth was so unique, because you had this incredible swords, and you let me, of course, pick up the one with what you call the boat oar saya, or the scabbard,
right?
Which I never saw that design, and you told me that was a traditional boat oar scabbard or saya design.
Yeah, I've actually picked up and held actual Japanese pieces. You can go on the internet and find a few of them here and there. There's a internet section. It's called Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
They feature just pictures. It's not a selling site. It's just pictures of all kind of kodogu, which is the actual fittings, saya, armor, everything. You can just type on it and type in anything you're looking for, and that will come up. But I've actually held a couple of the original pieces in my hand, and they have that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of a boat oar, because the way it flares, and it's got those slats. You've got a center line, and then a break angle on each end, and that's what you end up with. But I've seen tantos, wakasashis, and katanas with that design saya on them.
Yeah, well, that's such a fascinating design. And, just reflecting, in the Edo period or before then, in the Meiji period, et cetera, I guess. Edo, that would be the Edo period, right? Before the Meiji restoration. So we have this.
Right. I can't tell you any different types, what year periods they showed up, because I've never gotten any written literature on them that even talk about them. I've got a book that I picked up of a guy called Marcus Sesko. He's a European, and he does translations of all Japanese books.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a book that he put out that talks about fittings from different time periods, why they did it, how they looked, when they changed. And there's nothing even in there that brings up that particular size or that shape of that saya. So I don't know where it showed up or when it showed up, but I've just always admired it just for the way it looks. They did do a piece early where the lower part of the saya flares like that, but they cover it with animal fur.
Oh, interesting. I see what you mean. Yeah, right. And saya, again, for viewers.
But most of your high-end samurai carried those.
Okay, right. So more of the aristocracy samurai. Well, it's interesting.
Right.
I guess that would be a misnomer, because the samurai was an aristocratic class. And, of course, the peasants weren't able to carry swords. Unlike America, where we have the Second Amendment, where, people of all socioeconomic status, et cetera, or people who even are, in lower socioeconomic brackets, they're able to carry weapons of great power that can defend themselves, unlike the samurai period, where if you were a normal person, you were screwed. I mean, if you just messed around with the samurai, you're dead. You're going to get your head cut off. So it was a very tyrannical, totalitarian type of, period that they were living in. And of course, thank God, God bless America, because we have the ability here for every man, woman of every race, creed, and color to be able to arm themselves with the weapons of their choice, including firearms or blades if you want, to defend ourselves. So that, I mean, it's a really different world that we live in than the samurai world, which is a very totalitarian world.
Oh yeah, well of course. Well, I don't know if you've been to Japan, but
Many
I've
times,
been over there a
many
couple
times,
times,
many,
and it's
many
like
times,
being in
many
America with Japanese people walking around. They emulate everything from the Western, from us, the Westerners.
Oh, I've been to Japan, not millions, but many times. We worked in Korea doing ministry for like 6 years plus, and we have a very large congregation in Japan as well. So I visited Japan. I've visited very, very country areas where our churches were and some of that, and we stayed with the brothers and sisters there, all around Japan. Incredible memories. And I've always been, since I've been in the martial arts and in the different weapon arts too, both Filipino Kali Eskrima, but also Japanese blade arts as well. I've always appreciated that the blade culture there, not necessarily the totalitarian history, but definitely the blade culture and the forging and all the beauty that goes into all that hard work. Wally, I'm right here in your competition sword section. You have this incredibly beautiful sword. I remember just when we were at Blade Show, you had this awesome sword with the beautiful leather-wrapped handles, the tsuka, and boy, I mean, your wrapping technique, I mean, everything you're doing is in a traditional manner. I'm looking at this beautiful hamon right here on screen for people. Can you guys go to that? You guys, hold on, this computer's not hooked in. Tech team, go to store.
You're breaking up real bad.
Okay, how's that? Is that better? Go to store and pull down competition sword. No, go to competition sword. And then click on one of those images. And then we're looking at the swords that Wally's making here. Go to the next image here. Look at that beautiful, it's a sword here. And you can see on the tip of the blade, there's this sort of ghost-like pattern. As you can see, there's like a ghost-like pattern on the sword. And that is called the hamon. And Wally, explain to us, how is the hamon created this ghost-like pattern on the blade, which is different from each blade, and that reflects the heat tempering process and, of course, the skill of the artisan that's creating it. How does the hamon get created?
All right. The term is differential heat treating. So what you do is the blade is prepared, and we put clay on, a very, very, very thin layer on the entire blade. Then we come back and we put thicker across the back. If you see where the temper line has the whitish edge.
Yes.
Okay. From there up is a thicker layer of clay. From there down is very little at all. And then we have special tools that we've made, or they made, or I've made, that we apply clay in little thin strips or designs, and then that's put over the top of the other two layers. And when it's properly dried, then we heat treat it. We bring it up to temperature, and different steels require different temperature bands because the way they form, the way they harden. So what we do is, temper lines are really, really funny. It took me a long time, probably the better part of 10 years, to get a temper line that I could consistently put the clay down and get that same temper line every time I did it.
Wow. So you could conceivably draw any pattern you want and get that temper line to manifest?
Not at first, no. I can now, but when I first started, no. The biggest problem is if you overheat the blade before you quench, or it's at too high a temperature before you quench, you will ignore the clay. It will harden the blade, it will create a temper line, but it'll give you whatever it wants. It won't give you what you want.
Right. Interesting. Wow, it's such a sensitive, state of affairs, isn't it? Set of affairs.
Right, exactly. And there's many terms in the Japanese language. There's probably over 10,000 terms that describe the Japanese sword in the way it looks, the way it's shaped, all its fittings, all its furniture. Temper lines were done to, of course, harden the edge to give you a really good hard cutting edge that would take a good sharpness and maintain it. And then the back was left basically not soft, but much softer than the edge, so it was flexible. So it would handle the dimensional stresses that happen, and torsional stresses, I should say, when a blade is used. But the temper line also was developed, the term is ashi, which means legs. Those are soft, they're actually softer areas that extend into the temper line down to the edge. So if you chip the blade, the chip stops when it hits that soft zone. The earlier pieces were just straight. So the whole edge was hardened perfectly straight. And if it chipped way up too high, then the blade had to be either completely reshaped and retempered, or it was trashed. The later smiths developed this process to create the soft zones that would keep the blade from major damage, so it was actually serviceable for a lot longer period of time.
Oh, interesting. So that's why, of course, you have the flexible sort of backside and then the hard front edge of the sword.
Right.
That's fascinating.
That's how it's designed to work.
Right. So you have basically a very hard edge and a more pliable, softer backing to the sword.
Correct. And then a lot of the smiths inserted a softer core inside the actual blade and had a harder jacket on the outside, and then that was all forged together.
Wow, that's incredible.
But as a blade,
it's metallurgic sorcery.
Well, yeah, that's the way they thought of it at the time, because they basically didn't write anything down. If they transferred a secret, they either showed their apprentice or their relatives or whatever, hopefully before they died or got killed or whatever, and then that's how it went on. I mean, the Japanese did write down stuff, but their biggest problem is they were pyromaniacs. They loved to burn everything. They'd build a castle and 2 weeks later burn it to the ground. I mean, it was just so everything that was written got destroyed.
I know what you mean. They burned down Korea too when they colonized it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm here on your website, and I want to scroll through some of these pictures for the audience to see. Look at some of the end caps for the sword you have here, and of course some of the sword caps, I guess you would call it, that hold, right? Beautiful pieces. Wow, look at this. Look at all this ornate detail. Look at this tsuba. This is the handguard. Look at this piece that you did, and you had to hammer these. You created this raindrop design on one of the tsubas on your competition sword webpage. Wow. I mean, look at how did you get these little pin drop raindrops to be drawn on this tsuba like that? This is incredible detailed work.
It's hand engraved. It's done with an engraving tool.
Golly. Absolutely beautiful. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You're breaking up again.
Oh, okay. No. You were going to say something. Just gorgeous pieces. Your hand engraving. Look at this here with the cutout sakuras. And then you have all this beautiful hammered. It looks like it's hammered. The tsuba is clearly hand hammered. Now you can see the edge here. Clearly hand hammered here.
Yeah, well, the edge is upset. That's actually cold forged. There's no heat involved there. We stand the tsuba up on edge on an anvil, and we take a hammer, and we hammer down that face and keep rotating the tsuba till we hammer it to the level that we want. Then we come back and then hand finish the outside edge. But what it does is when you hold a tsuba up, it makes the tsuba look thicker, but it's not. That's only an 1/8 inch thick plate, but it's almost 3/16 of an inch thick on the outside edge.
Interesting. but just a lot of goodness, so much work that goes into this. Golly.
And then the facing, that's a hand-hammered texture with a special tool. Their term is, they call it a broken head punch.
Right, because that's definitely hand-hammered. You can see all those little dimples that have been placed there by hand.
Right.
Beautiful, beautiful work. Very impressive work. And your wakizashi start from 1,500, and these are all, the full thing is handmade. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's
wow.
A functional, if you look at the second row, last picture to the right, that's a wakizashi right there. That would be $1,500.
Okay, no, not that one, Shimon, that one. Yeah, that one. That's a wakizashi. Okay, and then your katanas prices start from $3,500, right. And of course, all handmade.
Right. That's a functional piece. The sai is hand inletted, handmade, hand planed, lacquered. All the fittings are buffalo horn fittings. The handle, same thing. The foundation is all hand wood. I either do a full wraps or I do inlays of the skin and then put on all the fittings. And the fittings are reproduction fittings that I make cast from sterling silver. But I can make a fitting by hand, which is more expensive. And then hand wrapped with either silk or cotton. And then the suba, I usually make the subas, the seppas, the washers that go in between. It's all hand done. It's not stamped out. It's not a casting. It's not a reproduction. I don't have anybody else do the work. Everything you see there is done by me except for the casting on the manukis, which I have a company do the casting because I don't have the time to do it. But I do have all the equipment. I know how to do it.
Wow. Well, I'm looking at your Itomaki Tachi for 10 grand here. And wow, look at the curvature on that blade. Wow, did you design that kind of curvature, or did that bend like that during the heat tempering process? The quenching?
That curvature is typical of a tachi from the time period, say about the 1200s, 1300s. They had that much of a curvature. And the blades that we see now from that time period have basically been shortened. So they lose a lot of the curvature because they're cut from the handle end, not from the tip, only from the handle end. But there are original ones that exist from that time period, and that's the kind of curvature they have.
Wow. And these, interesting, these swords, these are longer swords, I'm assuming. These were held blade down, is that correct?
They were carried edge down, and it took 2 movements to draw it and cut. Where a katana, you could draw and cut with the same movement because it's put in the obi edge up.
Right. Edge is up. Fantastic. Such beautiful pieces, golly, that you have created here. Here are some of the other pieces that Wally is doing. And of course, every good sword collector or weapons collector needs to have a samurai sword because they are just one of the most beautiful functional pieces of technology that was present to the day. I've loved the samurai. A lot of my firearms and stuff like that, I painted little koi fish and little sakuras on them. And for the queen here, I painted some beautiful gold leaf sakuras on her Car P380 pistol that she carries. And so I've sort of incorporated a lot of the Japanese art onto my guns.
Right.
But of course,
my father was in.
Go ahead.
My father was in the Navy.
Yes.
And during World War II time, and he was stationed off one of the main island, on a island where they stored all the ammunition that was confiscated. So he had numerous boxes of Japanese swords, fittings, whatever. And there was an officer that came out there one time, and they took apart something, and they found 2 solid gold shishi dogs, manukis. And this guy took them home, and he put them on the butt handles of his .44 military grade automatic, semi-automatic.
Wow. Wow, interesting. That's amazing. Because the manuki are the little pieces, trinkets, the jewelry that is wrapped in the sword handle. For people who don't know. And I'm looking here. Look at, boys, tech team, go to Swords for Sale and go to the one at the bottom, the one that's already sold, $4,500 sold. Look at this work of art. Wally, I mean, the work you're producing is phenomenal. I mean, look at this work of art. My
Now, those
goodness.
fittings on that piece are all made by hand. Those aren't castings.
Don't go so fast. Shimon, don't go so fast. Go back. Go back. Okay, now go. So you got to move slowly. These are all art pieces. Don't move so fast. Okay, look at that beautiful saya, which is the scabbard. Look at the two-toned red and black. It almost looks like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. I'm almost a black belt. I'm a Brazilian jiu-jitsu brown belt. But that's the black belt with the red stripe that Brazilian jiu-jitsu has. What inspired you with that saya?
Say that again?
On your sword that was sold, the $4,500 one with the red and black saya, what inspired you with that design of the saya?
If you could see I'm trying to find, hold on just a second. All right, go to that picture. Can you click on it?
Yes.
It will change the screen.
Oh.
And it will give you a bigger picture, 2 pictures of that entire piece.
If I click it, it goes to a different sword. I'm sorry about that.
No, it should get. That's the. It's when you click on that picture, it should go to a group of 8 pictures of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of that same sword.
Oh yes, I see what you mean. Right. I see what you mean. Yep, I'm in close.
Right.
It looks like a sakura. It looks like a cherry blossom tree.
That's exactly what that represents. Cherry tree, persimmon tree, or plum tree bark that grows in Japan.
I see it because I raise sakura trees, and that's definitely a cherry bark.
All right. Now, the lower part of the saya, there's like little whirlpools.
Yes.
Right. All right. Those are individually, some of them have mother of pearl on them, and some of them have a texture. The picture doesn't show it really that well, but you can also see the kashira, the suba, the fuchi, and the wrap on the entire piece in those pictures.
Dang.
Now, I got the idea from a customer a couple years ago, had a tanto that had that exact same lacquer pattern on his tanto.
I see. Zoom in, boys. Zoom in on that.
He wanted me to repair the red section.
Go to the fourth.
It was peeling off.
Fourth picture. Go to the fourth picture. Fourth. There it is. See that cherry bark on the red of the scabbard? Beautiful.
Now, my customer wanted me to repair the upper section on the tanto in that red section. It was all peeling off.
Yeah.
So I had to take it off, and I restored it, the finish, back to that's how it looked when it was done. So I took this sword, which I made, and I emulated his finish on this katana.
I mean, look at that incredible, the detail on some of that hand pounding work that you do with the sakura, right above the sword, and right below the tsuba. It's between the tsuka and the tsuba. What's that piece called again? Kashira. Is that a kashira?
Yeah, no, that's the fuchi. That's the fuchi, the bottom of the handle.
Okay, the kashira is the bottom, and then this little piece in the middle is the fuchi.
Right, the piece at the bottom of the handle is the fuchi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, piece at the bottom is fuchi, and what's the little piece between the tsuba and the tsuka?
Okay, that's called seppa.
Seppa.
That's a shim.
A shim.
There's one on each side.
Right. Okay.
And that's how you make everything fit. So when you put the makugi in, you can see the little peg, that little whitish-looking thing in one of the openings of the handle.
Right, the bamboo peg. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once you put that in there, if you've got the shimming right, when you drive that peg in there, it cinches everything up and tightens it up.
Right. So you got a shim in there, and then you've got the what is right after the shim is the kashira.
On the top side, yes. On the bottom side is called koi gooch, which means carp's mouth. That's made out of buffalo horn.
Mm-hmm. Anyways,
that's attached to the saya.
Yeah, I mean, goodness. Anyways, it's so, even the wrapping of the handle is a real art. And how you're reproducing this looks like, I've seen some very expensive samurai swords. And this work is stellar. What can I say? I mean, look at the detail on this, the end cap here. And of course, the tsuba here. But look at that. It all looks like it's made to look antique. Beautiful work.
Right.
Golly.
Well, like I said, with me restoring actual original antiques, a lot of times when I do repairs, I have to make them look antique. 'Cause I try to do the repair so it's undiscernible, so they can't tell it's been repaired.
Yes, right. So are all these other swords available for people to purchase on your website?
The ones that aren't sold, yes. The ones that are on the for sale page. I've got more to put on. I just had the website completely. I moved to a different host, a hosting guy, to do my hosting of the website, and I've got to do a bunch of updates. I've got a half a dozen new swords that got to be put on there for sale, new patterns. If you go to the Habaki page, I've got new Habakis that I've made, different designs that got to go on there. I just haven't had a chance to do that because I've got shows to do this time of the year. I've got one more to do at the end of this month, and then I'll be done. But that's where it's at right now.
Well, this is amazing. If somebody wanted to get the same one down here that you sold with the red and black saya and the sakura fittings, would that still be for $4,500?
Yeah, but I wouldn't make another one. See, those are art pieces. I only make one because I figure if a customer is going to pay $4,500 for something, he needs to know and have a feeling that nobody else is going to have another one like that unless he comes across the original that I might have emulated when I made this piece.
But you could make something in the genre of that, right? With the sakura fittings.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You could send me a picture of an original, and if you wanted me to do one like that, I'm quite relatively sure that I could do that.
And that would be around $4,500.
Yeah, a blade that size with that level of mounting, yeah, about $4,500. Now, if you want a groove cut in the blade, there's a couple on the site, but I've got a new one I've just finished that has a he or groove cut all the way down it, and it's a full-length katana. But that's the one that's got the boat or saya. That's that blade.
Okay, right. Anyways, Wally, incredible work that you're able to do. Of course, I recommend any of the ninjas that train with us at Peace Plea Militia training. Of course, we love the sword arts too. We train some of the sword arts with our kids here sometimes too as well in our congregation. And, if you are looking for a beautiful artisan level, working art piece, working real samurai sword, which you can use obviously for competition, for training, for practice, for just general health, well-being, and meditation, practice, and prayer. But also, if the Shemitah hits the fan, you could use it for self-defense weapon because it is
oh,
a
yeah, everything
weapon.
that I make, whether it be an art piece or something for the martial artist, they're all tested to make sure the edges will perform, hold up, not chip, not roll over. It's all high-quality, high-carbon steel that I use. I don't use any of this. There's guys out there that are using all kinds of these exotic steels and stuff. But the problem with them is they won't form temper lines because they have too many alloys in the steel.
Right. And high carbon steel is a very traditional steel.
Right. 1095, which is the highest carbon steel I make, is actually a tool steel. used for making drill bits and all kinds of other stuff, files, whatever.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of the bushcraft knives, we're also into bushcraft survival training here too at our church. But a lot of the bushcraft knives we use from the Pathfinder School, they're also 1095 steel. And you can throw a spark off with a flint and steel off the knife in a survival situation with char cloth to make fire.
Right. Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
High carbon steel, the higher the carbon, the better it will throw a spark with a flint steel. Yes.
That's right. Where a lot of the A2 steel and I guess D2 steel, whatever, A2 steel, they will not throw a spark as well. And of course, the stainless steels will hardly throw sparks at all.
Well, that's because of the nickel content in the steel. That's what keeps it from rusting, but it won't hold a good cutting edge for any length of period because it's actually soft as compared to carbon steel.
Interesting. Well, Wally, we're reaching the end of our broadcast this morning, and I have really enjoyed this talk. When I get to talk with such a master of forging, it's always such a joy. And
no, don't call me a master. I'm not a master.
I mean, the pieces that you make.
No, I'm not a master.
Well, always the humble student, Wally Hostetter, and his beautiful pieces. ShiningMoon13.com, folks. If you are interested in a sword of high quality artisan level, but of course with cool modern steels that you can still use in a real self-defense situation. This man is creating beautiful works of art. I met him in person. A lot of the folks, the ninjas came down who came down with us. We met him in person. Such a wonderful, sweet man, and of course, producing such a tremendous works of beauty and art. So, if you're interested in some of these swords, go check out his website at ShiningMoon13.com, and that is Wally Hostetter. Give him a call. Give him some love. And Wally, thank you so much for joining us today. Tim has got a real quick point, right? Real quick.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We got an email from our contest winners, and they want to use only $60 for the meal and donate the remaining $60 to support future True Romance contests.
Oh, okay. So that's
nice?
A different. We're talking about a different topic now, Wally. But very nice. Thank you, the winner of the contest, True Romance contest. They are donating half of their winning prize to a future romance contest winner for the beautiful contest that we have for married couples and beautiful stories of romance. So we're grateful for Wally for joining us today. Thank you, folks, for joining us this morning on the King's Report. We hope you had a great time. If you enjoyed the broadcast, like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a tip if you are moved to do so. And we will see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp, on the King's Report. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.